All right. Connect with your market. So today we're skipping two. We're coming back to it on Monday. Because Clay, who loves teaching his beginning classes, is out of town. So we'll get him on Monday. So definitely come on Monday. Clay is like one of the favorite instructors. So he runs, I just got a text from someone who runs the biggest team in the Salt Lake Market Center, and they're usually number one in the state. And Clay's team, the Red Sign team, is beating them right now. So he just texted them like, "Oh, looks like Red Sign just beat us this year." I mean, you can kind of already imagine where the end of the year is going to do. Because if you have clients right now that go under contract, they might still close this year. But if you maybe have like a week or two to get paid this year still. So it's kind of all determined. So it looks like Red Sign team will be the best in the state in KW. So he's going to teach on Monday. So it should be good. But today we're going to talk about connecting with your market. So we did Spark Your Career with Dan Kennedy. Like I said, Clay's doing that. And then we have the whole rest of everything. We're going to skip a couple of these, just FYI. Some of these end ones we're going to skip in December. Can't remember if I think I did most of the lead generation. Maybe I combined one of the lead follow-ups. But so just to get all through all of them or most of them, the important ones for the end of the year. So here's our day today. We're going to know your market. We're going to build some expertise, utilize resources, recap and ahas, and then go make some calls. So a lot of this is going to be hands-on type thing. So it's going to be like the beginning part will be the education. And then when we're building your expertise and utilizing resources, we are going to do that together, like on the MLS and things like that, how you can go find resources to look informed. So here's the truth. If it has been done in another market, it can be done in your market. Once it has been done, no matter where, it's just a matter of finding out how that can be possible in your world. This is one of my favorite things that Gary Keller says, because everyone in Keller Williams is so willing to share what they do. And a lot of people are like, oh, that wouldn't work for me. What happens is it works for you, you just aren't working it the right way. So, for example, Clay Winder, I wonder if he's going to tell you his story, but I know it very well. When he got started in real estate, he was told to call everyone he knows, write him a letter, and then put them in his database. So one day he bought a bunch of thank you cards and he made a phone call to whoever was first in his phone, maybe like an Aaron, Aaron, said, "Hey, Aaron, this is Clay. I just got into real estate. Would you be willing to help me build my business? And will you send me any referrals when you hear of anyone looking to buy or sell real estate?" And they said, "Yep." And he said, "Cool. Hey, I'm going to send you something. What's your address?" And he wrote down the address on the card as they said it. Then he hung up and he took the thank you card and said, "Thanks for committing to help me build my business. And send me anyone you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Thanks, Clay." Stuffed it in the envelope, made the next phone call. And he did that for like 3 months straight. And he ended up finding a deal during that time. And then it took him like 9, 12 months or something before someone called him and said, "Hey, I want to buy real estate." But it was all him reaching out during that period. So would that work for you? He did that 15 years ago. Would it still work?
Yep.
Yep. What would fail? You would. You would just not do the work. You would probably buy the cards, you'd get 3 or 4 cards into it, and you'd say, "I hate making these phone calls. I'm going to stop doing that. This is a dumb script. I'm not going to do it." Whatever you would put in your mind to make you stop doing it. If you get past that fear, get past that anxiety, get past that worry, whatever you have, and just go through and do that to everyone that you possibly could, you will find business. And it might be now business, and it might be in the near future business. But so that's the problem, is things work, we just don't work them. So in February, they do this thing that's called Family Reunion. It's actually going to be in Vegas this year. So if you can swing it with the money, it's the easiest one to get to and the easiest one to find hotels nearby because it's Vegas. So They also do one in August, September called Mega Camp. Both of them are conventions. They're very similar, but a little bit different. And they will do like a panel. Mega Camp is all panels. Everyone's in the same room and they'll talk about something. Family reunion, you choose which class. You're like, I want to do social media. And then you go to a social media class. It's a panel just on social media or someone teaching. In all of them, there is someone that is succeeding at a very high level in something, whether it's open houses, FSBOs, expireds, events, working with your sphere, something. And they will lay out their plan on exactly what they do. And the problem is most people don't work it. So I'll get off of my soapbox as long as you will commit to whatever you hear, you dig to how they actually did that, and then be willing to do that even if it's uncomfortable. Because everything's possible in every market. So, knowing your market, blah, blah, blah. So there's types of markets. We have a buyer's market, a balanced market, and a seller's market. Have you guys heard about this? So the buyer's market is where the buyers have more power. There's usually more listings than there are buyers. So one buyer for two houses kind of a thing, and the sellers have to fight over the buyers. The seller's market, there's one listing for two buyers kind of an idea, right? Less listings than there are buyers, and the seller or the buyers have to fight for the market. So 4 years ago, COVID, crazy market, that was the most extreme seller market we've ever seen. What was happening in that time? Do you guys know?
Everybody was fighting over houses. I mean,
if I listed a house at 500,000, what do you think I sold it for?
600.
Yep. That's how it was. You would have to pay way more because the buyers were fighting against each other. Now, after the aftermath of 2008, that was an extreme and a worst buyer's market that we've ever seen. So the buyers had all of the power. So I remember I was searching for a house at this point. I didn't even end up buying it. Like I didn't have a reason not to buy a house, but I remember favoriting 30 different listings that I would be happy to live in. I sent all 30 to my real estate agent and she set up showings for 5 of them. We went out, we saw 5 houses, and she said, do you guys like any of these? I'm like, I don't know. We have 25 others that we favorited. She's like, there were probably like 8 that are really good deals in there. So why don't we go see the other 3 here in a couple days? And we're like, oh, we can't for like a week. She's like, that's fine. We'll go in a week. And we went in a week. All of them were still available. And we didn't end up making an offer on any of them, which I regret because one of them, I specifically remember, was listed for $200,000. She said it was overpriced and we could probably get it for like $175,000. I sold a house to my buddy like 10 houses away from that for $700,000 4 years ago. I could have gotten $500,000 of equity in a decade, like $500,000 net worth, just like that, because I bought a house. Craziest thing. Anyway, balanced markets when you're right in the middle. So how they determine this is months of inventory. So the way they look at this is if right now, if no new houses went on the market, how long would it take for them to sell all of those houses? That is the months of inventory. So when it's really 6 is the line. So 6 and above is a buyer's market. 6 and below is a seller's market. They like to say if you're like in that 5 to 7, you're balanced. What this means for you is in a buyer's market, you show a ton of homes because there are so many houses to choose from. In a seller's market, it's all about speed. You have to get them into the house as quickly as possible because 4 years ago, homes would sell in a weekend with multiple offers. If you weren't seeing it like the same day or the next day, you were not getting that house. Buyer's market, you could take a month or 2. Where are we right now? Do you guys know?
Still on the seller side, right?
We are. We are still on the seller side.
creeping up a little bit.
It is, it feels a lot more balanced. But this is a generic term, but we don't live in a generic market, right? Like the condos in Vineyard are different than the homes on the bench in Provo. Those are different markets and they could be in different markets, but we generally talk about the market being like a buyer's market or seller's market. You know what? You might be trying to go buy a condo and have to show it the same day, put in multiple offers, bid up kind of a thing. And then you might have a different buyer buying a house in Provo on the bench. And you're like, we got all the time in the world. Chances are this is going to sell in 60 days kind of a thing. And that could be happening at the same time. We're getting a little bit of that. It's not that extreme, but there's a little bit of that out there. So inventory, number of properties for sale. What's the inventory of our market? We'll talk about that in a sec. The average number of days a home stays on the market. Do you know this number?
It's like, I'm thinking, I'm going off memory, but it's
Okay.
not like 40 days. 47?
54.
54.
54 right now. The average price a home sells for in the market? Isn't that what it is? Yeah, it's like low fives
Here, I'm
right in
gonna
there.
put
We're just don't get ahead of us, Dave. We're gonna do that in a sec. Based on the inventory, what type of real estate market are you in? So we have so many houses, how many are selling, right? We kind of talked about that. Interest rates and lender regulations. So probably the best thing you can do to stay up to date on interest rates is to connect with a couple of lenders. We have some great lenders in this office that you can meet and they will update you constantly. I even get this text from my lender. He didn't send it this morning. Oh, goodness, where's the yesterday one? So he sends this fun little graphic that you could steal and post on social media that says the rates, 6.75%. Do you know the other way I figure out what rates are? I drive past a billboard on the freeway. And that is not the exact rate. It is like the very best rate you can get for the very best borrower, kind of an idea. So chances are that's not the rate you're going to get, but it's a good little like test. Did it go up or did it go down? So I can know what's happening with
What is on that?
the rates. Was it 6.1 point? Yeah, I think it might be a little higher this morning. I was trying to remember when I drove by.
Yeah. Probably like the lowest they can legally advertise.
Yep. It's like if they can connect with their best investors, with the best borrower, giving like a great down payment, like all of the stars align, they could get that. But it's not real. So connect with some of these lenders. We have Security National up here and then Aries Mortgage up on the second floor. And they will send out texts. A lot of people will send emails. You can get on some of their newsletters. When you do a few deals, you're just going to get on newsletters. Every time that I'm the listing agent and I end up emailing the lender anything, they automatically add me to their newsletters. And then I end up getting some of their emails. And some of them I like. There's one lender for the past decade, he's been sending me emails. I don't even know his name. Well, Luke is his name. I've never met him in real life. I have no idea. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. He sends an email every Tuesday that says Tuesday's rate. And he just sends the rates on Tuesday. That used to be enough for me. Lately, rates have been crazy and change every day. So I like the daily. So yeah.
How did things like FHA loans that are dependent on appraisals work? Because like, could you get approved for a house and then the value of it is not accurate? Because
Yes. That was the biggest problem back then, is the appraiser would come in and say, hey, I found all of these comps that all sold for 500 in the neighborhood. and you're under contract at 550. So he would, and they were seeing things like, oh, you had multiple offers, like obviously people want it. So it should be higher than these things that sold because the market's going up. So they'd maybe say like 520. But then we're 30 grand short and you have to bridge that gap with cash.
With the FHA loan, most people are not.
Yeah,
They're not gonna
they're getting
have-
FHA because they have 3.5% down usually. So then when they, hey, come up with 30 grand, they say, shoot. And that agent says, come up with 30 grand, or I'm gonna go talk to the other buyers that all made offers that have more cash. So FHA buyers got screwed. It's really what happened a couple years ago. So all these people would take out, like, they'd refinance and take cash out, or they do like a home equity line of credits, a HELOC, and take out cash and give that to their kids or buy a house for themselves or something like that, because they had all this cash. So,
Same,
uh-huh. Yep. But again, the market wasn't created equal everywhere. So like a couple years ago, I sold a home in, not Tooele, what's out there?
First Valley.
Bigger than that. I want to say, oh, it's a D. Nope, was it an E? What is that place as you're like on your way to,
I don't ever go out there.
there's no reason. Past Tooele. Anyway, we did a VA loan because that was the only thing that we got offers for, was a VA loan. So like, yep, works great.
Well, it can come out if you're off, like on your site, last year when I bought my house, it's listed for 450, came out raised for 415. And they wanted to sell so bad so that they could buy their house. They just ate that 35,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I can't do it, so.
Well, that's what we ended up doing. It appraised for lower than we were selling it for, and we came down. We also took out closing costs. The buyer's agent lowered his commission and we made it all work. So there's things that you can do, but it just sucks for everyone usually. Let's talk about interest rates a little bit more okay, so the Fed, did they just lower the rate?
They just said that they. were
0.25,
I don't know
right?
if they did it yet, or if they said.
They say they're
lowered
going
it.
to,
Said it was gonna lower December or something.
yeah, that's what I saw too. But I thought they met yesterday.
Yesterday was this one and then December 17th.
Is gonna be their next one, and I think they're gonna lower it there. So oh yeah, they did lower, I'm remembering now, read this morning. So they lowered it 0.25. What did that do to interest rates? Mortgage interest rates? Nothing. Because they are not the same thing. What the Fed sets is the short-term borrowing rate between banks. So this is like overnight, like I'm transferring money to Dave and it automatically shows in Dave's account, even though it's not quite from one bank to the other, or oh shoot, I lent out more money than I actually have. Can I have some of your money for a day as I fix this on my balance sheet? All of those things, that is the interest rate that banks are saving. So when interest rates from the Fed go up, it raises your like high yield savings account and things like that. They follow in lockstep. Mortgage rates are long-term investments. So it is closely followed with like the 10-year treasury yield, which people are thinking, oh shoot, Trump has all of these spending plans and things like this. So we think inflation might come back. So we think it would be better to put your money in these long-term things rather than the short-term. And so it did nothing for interest rates. So it's not the same. Usually they follow each other, but not always. And we can look at some of that here even in a second. So it is very complicated. If you cannot hear, even as I try to explain it, I'm still trying to wrap my head around some of this on how it works. But just know, usually when the Fed changes their rate, the mortgage market has already preemptively planned on that. And so sometimes like the bigger, like the 50 basis point drop that they did a couple months ago, everyone thought it was going to be 25 to 50 and then ended up being 50. So mortgage dropped a little bit more because they weren't expecting that kind of an idea. Now, Trump being in president, people are worried, but I think that that initial worry is going to wear off when he actually becomes president and they're like, oh, wait, he has these radical ideas, but they're either going to work or they're not going to happen. So I think it will kind of level out and things will get better. We'll see. We'll see. Economic factors play an important role of the market. Unemployment rate, very important. Unemployed people cannot get loans. So the higher the unemployment, the harder it is to sell houses. The lower the unemployment rate is usually better, not just because employed people can get houses, but when there is a scarcity in the labor force and people need workers, they're willing to pay more money. For example, let's say we needed to hire a new front desk girl. And we see that McDonald's is hiring at $15 an hour. Well, if we need someone and we think they need to be better than a McDonald's worker, we know for sure we need to pay them more than $15 an hour, or else they just go to McDonald's to work. So if you have a scarcity in the market, usually income tends to go up, which is good for us because the more money you make, the better you can afford a house. How many workers are entering or exiting the workforce in your market? What's the growth rate of your community? Has the government made any rules? These are the kind of things to know. So Utah, are we growing or shrinking?
Growing as long as I've been here.
Yeah. Why are we growing? Great economy, and we have babies. Yeah, supposedly you need 2.1 babies every couple. Needs to have 2.1 babies to have the economy grow. And we are one of the few states that have more than that. I think we're 2.2 in Utah. Idaho, I think, beats us. Yeah, yeah. So plus our economy is great. So we have a lot of people that are moving here, right? Adobe, these other big tech companies are bringing jobs. We actually have manufacturing here. We have the mining out in east side of Utah. We have lots of growth in a lot of different industries. So we're a great market. So it's growing. So when the growth rate goes up, what does that mean? We need more houses. What happens if we don't build more houses? Prices go up, right? Less inventory for more people, home prices go up. Your neighborhood numbers. So a lot of these are generic Utah. Like Utah's economy is great, but like, well, great. Like, what about Vineyard? Is Vineyard growing or not? Or like, what do people want? And some of those local factors move more into this. Like, are there shops and restaurants, health facility, neighborhood attraction? Do you guys know what's going on in Vineyard? What they're planning to do?
They're putting in
Utah City. Stupidest name ever. I get why they name it, right? Like Salt Lake City has the Salt Lake right there. Now we have the Utah Lake, so they're like, well, it's Utah City. All right, Salt Lake County, Utah County.
together
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, we have Salt Lake and then the Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. Now we have Utah County, Utah Lake. Might as well get a Utah City.
Like something out of the Simpsons. Like, it really is. It's like,
So you have that. What's that going to cause? It's going to be like Utah's first walkable city. They're going to have all of these shops and restaurants and neighborhood attractions and all these awesome things. It should provide growth for people that want stuff like that out there.
we're going where Geneva was.
Think? I don't really know.
It's
Yeah,
the
is
only
it?
place I can think.
Yeah.
Maybe if they moved. the
Yeah, I'm
traffic
thinking it's like if
it's gonna
like
be
on 800 and like go north from 800 is what I feel like it's all doing.
South of 800 to like center.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all mainly houses.
I thought there was that one spot that I don't think the good soil I would test it good enough to build on.
Yeah.
But
They have the same problem with Abraham, they just pile up first.
Yeah, but Geneva,
It's been there for
Geneva's,
forever.
Yeah.
you guys don't look old enough to be around when Geneva was.
I remember I went on a like tour of Geneva when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I still remember like that big like bell-shaped thing that's out there next to Chubby's. I watched that pour like lava. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the coolest thing as a kid. Like I remember standing like 100 yards away feeling the heat. And I'm like, how are they doing this work?
Well, the inversion from like, people talk about how bad the inversion is now. It's been that bad since the like 80s and 90s here because of Geneva.
Yeah.
'Cause they were burning coal like nonstop.
Crazy. Okay, let's talk about build your expertise. Become the real estate agent of choice. So number one, you got to learn the market, learn your clientele, listen, and then keep the headlines in context. So let's talk about these. Learn the market. There's this idea of lore, which is the language of real estate. I think this is a lot of the numbers, right? If I were to list a house, what percentage of homes end up selling? Right now, it's 75%. In 2008, maybe 2009, when it was really bad, it was 30%. Like a 1 in 3 chance you had to sell your house, where right now it's 3 out of 4 sell. The highest we ever hit was like 95. You listed 20 houses, 19 of them would sell. Like crazy kind of an idea. So that is like the overall market, but then there's your business, right? Gary Keller talks about the economic model in the the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the MREA. What it means it's the business math behind it. So if I want to make $100,000, what's the average commission? Well, there's the market average commission, and then there's your average commission. For example, Clay Winder, when he got started, the brokerage actually was in Highland. So the average price of a Highland home, do you think it's higher or lower than the state average? Higher. Clay was younger than everyone else in the brokerage. He got started at like 25 or something like that. So do you think that he was selling homes higher or lower than average? Lower. All of his friends were buying condos. Interesting enough, back when he got in real estate, the only thing that was selling though were the little starter homes. No one was buying the big expensive Highland homes. So all of the agents started to go out of business, and he crushed it because he was selling little condos. Now he doesn't sell as many condos. He sells a lot bigger houses because he's older, his sphere's bigger. He's upgraded that. So he has changed that. So his average commission has gone up. So then from there, you can look at like, if you're looking back to the economic model, like how many appointments do I get, or do I have to go on to get someone to work with me? How many people working with me end up actually closing? I think you should track your own numbers to know these things. In an ideal world, I would have it so dialed in that I know how many calls I make, to how many appointments that leads to how many closings that leads to. So I could tell myself something like, I need to call 70 people to get 1 closing. That could be a real number. 40 could be another real number. I have seen both of those be accurate with agents. But so the person that needs to make 40 phone calls to get a closing, if they have a goal to close 24 transactions, that's 2 a month. That means they have to have 80 conversations in the month to hit their goal. Super easy. If you're a 70 per closing kind of person, you just have to have 140 conversations. Well, how many days are you going to work in the month? There's like 20-ish weekdays. So then divide that into 170 or 140, and you get 7 conversations. So like if you know those numbers, you can know today I need to have 7 conversations. And if I continually do that every single day, then I am going to hit my goals. Then you just need to track, are you still moving on pace with that, or are you not? And then what does the market change to change that, right? If all the average home prices go up and you typically have an average purchase price, maybe you can sell less houses and make the same amount of money. Maybe it's not about the money, but it's about the number of houses. Some people like to see that number, right? Like the team that just texted me like, oh, I think Red Sign's going to be #1 this year. They didn't care about the money. They're caring about the number of homes for the recognition of being the best. They care about the money and stuff. So you need to learn the numbers of what the market is, but then also know your numbers. Right now, that's hard. As you go, keep track of that and you'll start to know it more and more. Do you work with more buyers or sellers? Those kind of things. So learn your clientele. Who are the buyers? Who are the sellers? Does the market benefit your clients? Does the market put your clients at risk? So as you're starting, I would look at your closer friends and family and what are the common themes around them. And that is probably going to be your clientele. Not necessarily you're buying and selling houses only with those people, but those people tend to know people like them, and you're probably find more people like that. So for example, if you're younger, Andrew, how old are you? 24. I imagine you have more friends that don't own houses rather than do own houses. So I could see a world where you work with more buyers than you do sellers. Now, Dave being old, he's like 60. Just kidding, Dave.
Getting there.
Dave has a lot more friends that own homes, and so he might work with more sellers. So then you can start to think like, okay, how do I help this specific person? What in this market benefits my clients? As a buyer, right now it kind of sucks. Let's just be honest. There's some good things out there and some reasons why you should buy houses right now. My cousin just closed on a house last month. I think it's great that she did it. But right now, the biggest problem is affordability. So homes cost more because the interest rate is so high. Your payment on average is higher than the average income. So the average worker or the average family in Utah cannot afford an average mortgage. 10 years ago, you could afford like 130% of an average house on an average income. So we've gotten worse than that. And so what benefits your clients? Well, you know what? There's a lot of people out there that are not buying houses because they're waiting. But does it look like home prices are going to go down in the near future? Everyone thought they were going to go way down when interest rates went way up. What happened? We've kind of stayed flat. So what's that tell us? We're not going backwards. Even if rates stay the same, we're not going to go down any. If anything, we are just leveling out until we go back up. So right now, the benefit to a buyer is you get to buy a house without all of the competition. There were a ton of people that wanted to buy a house 4 years ago that never did because they put in multiple offers. I'm talking like 5 to 10 different offers and never got them accepted. The FHA buyers that could never buy anything. Those kind of people. Well, right now, you don't have that kind of competition. You can actually get homes. Does the market put your clients at risk? A little bit. If they wait, a rate's going to get better, well, you can refinance. If they get worse, then you can't get a house. So kind of looking at all of the factors of your clientele. And then you can even design this like, how can I help a first-time home buyer in a high interest rate scenario go get a great house? There are builders right now that have like a 5% interest rate on some of their builds. Maybe you go find those and you start calling your clients and be like, are you missing money? Or is affordability stopping you? I actually have these homes that are at 5% or 6%. There's some builders that are doing those. And you can find that. So start to learn that and how you can do that. Listen to individuals. Take grassroots approach. Learn where your sphere gets their information and be present. The best thing that you can do in business is to know what your clientele are saying and listen and adapt and change because of it. If you keep telling everyone it's a great time to buy a home, even though rates are high and they don't believe you, you need to figure out why and tweak and change your message. Yeah.
I haven't heard the term grassroots approach. What is that?
What is grassroots? How do you explain that? It's like the organic way to go about it, like talking to your neighbors and your friends and your family, like don't believe what the media is saying, but see how people are feeling. Great example of this is in the election. They said it was a coin toss, right? If you looked at all the polls, they were like, it's like 50-50. It's neck and neck. This is going to be such a close race. And then Trump wins the electoral and the popular vote. It like wasn't even that close. He won like all of these swing states that they thought that was just going to be a toss up, and he just wins. And so if you were to listen to the news, you would be surprised. If you were to just start talking to people out in the world, you'd be like, nah, this kind of makes sense. This is kind of how everyone's feeling. So it's a little more like organic and real, not made up by the media. They don't make anything up. I don't know why I'd say that. Learn where your sphere gets their information. Again, the media has an agenda. They want to push something for some reason. Maybe it's just to get clicks and get advertisers. Maybe it's something more than that they have, or they just have misinformation. And so where are they getting their information? And then how do you be the place that they get their information? Right? A lot of agents will post things on social media. They probably do it in a very boring way. But could you like take a news article that says why it's a bad time to buy a house, and then flip it on its head and use that same information to show why it's a great time to buy a house? Could you do something like that? That'd be a little more entertaining and interesting, and showing that you might be the source to get the information. And then be present. The more you're talking to your sphere, the more you're going to learn what they want, what they don't want, what their needs are. The very best way to find business right now are people that have to move. If you do not have to move, you typically right now are not moving. A lot of people got an interest rate and they're locked in at a very low payment, and so they don't have to move. I talked to all of these people that they want to move, but they don't have to move. And guess what? They are not moving. So if you can find the people that have to move, then you're going to do a lot better. Now, a whole bunch of these groups of people that have to move, like if you get a job in a new area, you have to move unless you're working remotely, but that's less and less common. If you get deployed, that's a big one. You usually have to move. Like someone could say like, oh, I live here because I'm on the base. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I got changed to a whole different base. I got to move. If you get a divorce, that is a very common reason to sell your house. If you got married, that's a really common reason to move in and combine finances and probably buy a house. If you've had a whole bunch of kids and now you don't fit in your house, like be present, get to know all of these people, because there are people that are more likely to buy now or sell now because of their scenarios. So like be present. Like I even think about this at social media, like read into people's posts as they're like, oh, I'm having another baby. And then think, where do they live? Because they might need a new house, because if they have 3 kids, they're living in a 2-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom condo that they bought with their 2% interest rate, they're going to definitely need more space. So be present, listen to them. Keep the headlines in context. Do you guys ever read articles, or do you just read headlines? I feel like that's what everyone does, is they see a headline, or that the common thing is like, oh, I read this study. No, you didn't read the study. You read the headline that referenced the study, and that is what you're talking about. So read past the headlines. It's good to know that some of these informations, I like to think, is this real or is this made up as I'm reading? And how could I challenge this? Would it be a good thing? So knowing your numbers is a little important on that too. So let's do some ahas before we jump into some real world. Any ahas?
I mean, I think it's important to stay in touch with the market and your clients, because the market's always fluctuating, and so that's definitely an aha for me.
Yeah. I have paid more attention to the news every single year. And now I'm trying to streamline the information that I'm consuming so it doesn't take up all of my time. So that way I can sound intelligent in the least amount of time. So I'll kind of show you some of the things. Command, social media, okay. Where are you, mouse? So one of the first things you should always pay attention to is our region, KW Utah, has a class. Actually, look at all of these things that they put on here. Where do they put it? Let's just look at resources. They put out this market statistics every year. Look at this. Look at this. Back to 2019, you can go and see all of these same statistics. So we taught this class in probably about a month ago. So you can always get these reports, right? I just went to kwutah.com and then agent resources. But then you can just scroll through and see anything interesting. If you want to see the breakdown on these, if you go to kwutah.tv, you can watch. It was actually me and team leader Taylor Frampton that went over these numbers. So some of the interesting things that I like to pull out here. Let me go to my favorite one. Oh, but this, so like this is like home sales by the year, so you can see how it's changed. We're down, but we're actually on our way up. If you compare year to date 2023 to year to date 2024, we're doing better. A lot of agents in the market don't feel like that, but we are. Here's like the 4% interest line or appreciation that everyone says we should get. So when in 2008, things went really above that, and then there was this crash and we were trying to catch back up to that. Then it took till 2021 for us to get over that line. And then I imagine if we were to look at 2025, we're going to be leveled out so we stay right on that line. Now that is US. So if you contrast that with Utah, the 4% line, we are 67% above the trend line. We probably are starting a new trend because Utah has been so desirable to live in. So we're a little above it. Okay, this is one of them that I really like. Can I zoom in on this? So this is home prices appreciation historical. So you'll look over since like, this is like the 60s, 50s and 60s. You'll notice that they kind of never really go backwards. They went backwards is that an 87? 0.87%, not 1% backwards in terms of appreciation. Then we had this crazy run up super high, and then we went back down, but we didn't even go negative. We just went flat for a short term. Then it went up crazy, 11.28. Then we started on our way back down. We went up like crazy, 16.22%, and we went back down to like nothing. But again, 0.57. So this was when the Fed rates were super high last time. Interest rates for a mortgage were like 18%. So even at like that craziness where people couldn't buy houses, we still stayed level as a market. 91, they actually went down by 2.15% in the savings and loan crisis. And then it was just straight appreciation from there. Crazy high. And 2008, bubble popped and we went down. And we went down so much because the problem was we had a crash in the housing market, not just like the loan or the interest rates or oil or anything like that. It was like the houses that crash. But then we improved and then we dipped barely below for a while. So when you have those people that are like, I'm gonna wait for home prices to come down. Let's see, we're 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the last 60 years, home prices have gone backwards on average. So what's making you think that now is going to be one of the 4 times in the 60-year type idea? When we, by the way, had one last
This is
year.
national.
This is national.
Utah's even more skewed than this. because
Yeah, we don't
Utah
have as good of a graph on this. But
better
so,
go-
yeah, so we go back to 2004, so we have the last 20 years. We went backwards in this era, then we jumped way up. And we went backwards for a minute and then back up. So
5
in,
times past 20 years, we've gone down in price.
yeah. And this was all because of the housing crisis. So if houses don't cause the problem, we've only had the one. So we're short on houses. We've been giving out good loans. So this is not going to be the problem. It's some sort of a recession type thing that would cause that. And I mean, you look at like COVID, we just jumped up. Interest rates go up like crazy. We just drop backwards a little bit, but then we're right back there as people get normalized to this. So you can start to look through some of these and pull out like stories from this. Like we were talking about with this one, like if you're going to wait for home prices to drop, you might just miss out. Because then even as things like level out, they always have this crazy big run up. Leveled out, boom. Leveled out, boom. Even down, boom. Like we leveled out and then we even have this huge pop. The chances that you time the market as a buyer are none. You're never going to time the market. What makes you look good as an investor is holding a home for long periods of time, right? If you bought in 91, look at how you just appreciated for 20 years, I guess that's 15 years. And then it dropped down. And then it like negative appreciation, but then we popped up, we were doing great. So you can start to tell these stories with some of these stats. So you can go through here as a ton of information on housing, like, oh, look, we're 16 years below the 54 national average on new home construction. That's why we fill this inventory gap, because we are not building enough houses in the US. And we can see that in Utah, this is like the housing demand. So in Duchesne, we built 64 too many houses. So they just probably, you shouldn't build in Duchesne. If you have some builder that's like, hey, I'm going to build some houses out in Duchesne, you're like, it's not great because the projected housing demand is you built 64 too many houses. Daggett County, 7 houses too many. But then you look at Utah County, what is that, 66? It's hard to see in that. So you can go download this and get some of these things. Here's our annual months of inventory, 3.4, which would put us in a, what kind of market? Seller's market, good job. Yeah, look at these buyer market times. So this would mean if nothing went on the market, it would take 11.3 or 12.1 months to sell everything in 2009. Or right now it would be 3.4. Here's it broken down by month so you can kind of see it, our new listing. So you can go through this and really get a good idea on some of these housing things. Then the other thing it adds on here, oh, average days on market, US is 29 and Utah is 54. That's where I got that number. Yes.
So every agent we talked to has said we're more in the buyer's market than seller's market.
Yes.
What
I'll show
price
you.
range or house type would we be considered in a seller's market in Utah right now?
Well, this is why people are feeling that way. Where'd that inventory one go?
It's not a price range for buyer or seller. It's the number of homes listed versus how many are selling.
Right, but
So-
it's the other.
This is why it feels like
If the
that.
market, if the markets are separated by like townhome homes would be a different market than like luxury homes.
Yep.
Which home type would be considered?
Put a pin on that. We'll do some research on that. And I'll show you how you can do that. But here's why everyone feels like that. We went from 0.9 months of inventory to now we're at 3.4. So agents that have been in for a while, like, dang, like homes were flying off the shelf. If you didn't get an offer on your first weekend, then you were probably overpriced by like $100,000. Because otherwise someone would have made an offer on your listing. But now we're a little more normal. Like this is like 2016 kind of numbers. Like this is, if we were to take the average here, we're looking right at the average for the last decade. So it feels slower than it has in the past couple years, but it's still technically a buyer's market. It is flirting with the idea of becoming a balanced market, right? 5 to 7, we're right around that. So, but like we were saying, it's everything. Every market's a little bit different. So, mortgage rates. This is interesting. The mortgage universe, 76% of mortgages have rates less than 5%. There are 14% of people right now that have a rate of 6% or more.
Not very many.
Not very many. 5 to
That
6.
makes a big
These,
difference on your payment.
yep. I imagine these people are very open to move whenever they have equity in something like this. This 3% or less, 22%, I bet they never want to move from their house. And you should tell them, you should save up a down payment and buy a new house without getting rid of this house, and then it should become a rental. That should be your advice to them, because when are we ever going to get down to 3% interest rates? We can even look at like, here's mortgage rate averages, right? Here's those 70s where we're like 17, 16%. We're crazy high. Down here, lowest ever. Like the average is between 6 and 7, depending on how long back you look. So we're right in between that average right now. Chances that we get way below that average seem crazy. So don't think that we're ever going to get down to the 3%.
During COVID, I refinanced my home for a 15-year mortgage and got it down to 2.87. And so I took it from the 30-year mortgage at like somewhere around 4 to a 15-year, and the difference was like less than $100 in the payment.
It's crazy.
It was crazy.
Crazy.
Like, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took out $100,000 and when I refinanced, and my payment went down. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
I was supposed to fix my house with that money, but instead I paid off solar panels and then I invested the money. And
Making money off that yet?
no, but it's all looking good.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If I were to sell it, it would be worth more now, but we're like on the cusp of things actually happening. So, if you work with investors at all, here's some great investment numbers. So you can kind of see here, or if you want to own rental properties, you can kind of see, here's the US mean for asking rent for the rolling 3 months. I think there's a Utah one somewhere in here. Vacancy rates, like if you're going to run numbers, like how long should you say is vacant? 5.3%. So what this means is at 8%, it means that 1 month out of every year, you are not going to collect rent. 4% is 2 weeks out of the year, you're not going to collect rent. So we're at 5%. So whatever that means, like three weeks out of the year, you're not going to collect rent. So you need to account for that much less in rent is how you would run those numbers. But then if you look at it like the different counties, like Davis County sucks. Don't buy a rental right there. It looks like they have way too many rentals, and that's probably why their vacancy is so high. Cache County's looking great. Utah County, we are rocking it. 1.7. So you're like a week or two is all you're looking at of vacancy every single year on average. So you can start looking at that. They throw in all of this about the US economy, so GDP, are we doing well? Unemployment, how's that looking? Even put in some of the Utah numbers for some of this. This one's always interesting to me. Full-time workforce by generation. So baby boomers are going down. The only reason they're buying and selling is because they have a bunch of equity. Most of them have paid off their houses, right? Gen X, they're still working. Millennials, we're working even more. And Gen Z's starting to come up there. They're taking over baby boomers right now. And so they are going to start making all of this money. So I imagine the baby boomers are going to be, all of their salaries are now going to the Gen X millennials. Gen Z are getting the Gen X millennial type numbers. They're going to be right there ready to buy houses real soon. Real wage, things like that. So you can see all of that, inflation. It's always interesting to me. What's more expensive? What's cheaper? TVs, 97% lower cost than in 2000.
How heavy TVs used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my TVs is going out. Like you turn it on and it goes, and I'm like not even worried because I'm like, Black Friday, I'll just get a new TV. I'll probably get a bigger, nicer TV for $300. Yeah. I think I spent $500 on it when I got it. Now I'm gonna probably buy a cheaper one.
Yeah, I think one of the first flat screens I bought was like 900.
Yeah, yeah. I remember buying like a little 24-inch TV for like $800 on Black Friday, thinking I was a genius. So fastest rising prices, even like insurance for your cars, sporting events, healthcare, photography equipment. Interesting. Again, admissions to movies and things. Man, I went to a movie the other day with my son.
They're
We spent
$12.
like, yeah, it was like 12 for him and like 16 for me. And then we bought a popcorn because it was his birthday and a drink. I walked out of there like both of us and we spent like $50. I'm like, what is this? Sorry to anyone that's dating right now. So you can kind of see where things have been changing, kind of get to know that. This is good to know because this is how people are feeling, right? And some of these are literally just how people are feeling kind of numbers. There's like the misery index right here. So it's like unemployment rate plus inflation rate. So you want a low number. So on average, we're doing better than we have in the past, but we're definitely not doing as good as we were a decade ago. Utah economy, kind of the same numbers. You can dive into these more. Construction, so you can kind of see how things are. I showed that one national. In Utah, we're 14 years below the 1 million average mark of kind of where we need to build in Utah. You'll notice that we were overbuilt for a very long time, right? What do you think led up to this 2008 housing crisis? We built too much and gave out too bad of loans. And then we stopped building, but does this equal this to keep us on average? I don't think it does, so we probably need to do that. Housing starts, we are starting less houses, single family, and then total building permits. We're on our way down. So kind of interesting things to jump in here. Builder confidence. Builders are not very confident right now. But they were real low after 2008. Probably because everyone was like, we're bankrupt. Don't ask us this question. We're out of the business. Then look at debt. This impacts you, right? Because the way that you qualify for a mortgage is you have to look at, I mean, every type of loan and loan product is a little different, but it's typically between 40 and 50% of your income can go to debt, including your house payment. So for us to show that we have other debt, student loan debt, credit card debt, auto loan, home equity revolving, that doesn't really affect too many people, and then the mortgage. So we have been growing on all of these, it seems like. And so that just makes it that much harder to keep your debt low enough so you can qualify for the house that you want. Credit scores, just kind of contrasting that with auto loans, you can kind of look at some of these. Delinquent loans, if you have bad credit, you don't get a loan. Foreclosures and bankruptcies. You'll notice that there was a big market for this, and now there is a very small market. So if someone's like, I want to buy a foreclosed home, well, they're not going to do that because there's not a lot out there. Collections, we have less people in collections, but they're collecting more money from them. So kind of interesting. So again, kwutah.com, agent resources has all of that info.
And the lower foreclosure rate, because they're just giving out smarter loans.
I think it's that, and people have equity in their house. So if the bank's like, I'm gonna foreclose on you, you're like, I'll just go sell it. Why do I need that?
So it was KW,
.com. Yep. And then if you want to watch, like Taylor and I did in like an hour and a half breakdown of each of these slides. It's their YouTube channel. And I think if you go to kwutah.tv, you can watch that. Here's another thing. So every Friday, Dean sends out this email, Fiffy Friday. This is last week's. I didn't see this week's yet. But he always does like interesting articles that at least he thinks are interesting. I read them 10% of the time, to be honest. Like some of them are very interesting. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But what I always look at is this market stats. And what I want to do here is do a quick little like glance and then a check to myself, like, is this better or worse than the last week's numbers, right? Total active listings, 11,000. That's kind of where we've been for the last little while. So, okay, Utah County sold in the last 30 days, months of inventory. He says we're almost to 4 months of inventory right now. Days on market, 52. Median list price, 535. Last month's sale price is 515. So people are typically getting houses for $20,000 under list on average. Right, so that's 96%. So if you were a buyer and you go see a house, or if your top of the line budget is 515, you should look at homes listed at 535 and make a 515 offer type of an idea, right? Typically, homes are going to sell for 96% of their value. So don't be worried about making a lower offer as a buyer's agent. As a listing agent, you'll want to tell people this. Typically right now, what I'm seeing is homes are receiving a 96% of their list price offer when they close. So when we think it's probably worth 535, be okay with 515 because that is normal. And then you're going to fight to have your stats be better than the average stats. Something interesting on marketing. What else he put in this one? Economic something. Usually he has something from a lender in here as well. So you can kind of see that. So if you are not getting these, you can always email Dean or pop into his office and be like, Dean, I want your Friday email. And he will love to send that out to you. So let's jump into the MLS and pull up some of these stuff. So the MLS has a bunch of different ways to see statistics. One of the things that's awesome here is every day you log on, you can see active, backup, under contract, sold. These are new things that happened today. How many price changes were there? 21 went down, 2 went up. I don't know who these 2 people are that say, we need to charge more for our house, even though it's still active. Doesn't make sense to me. But so you, some of them I like, yeah, so if you click on these, it like, so when you go into any listing, when you click on it, you can click this history button and you can see what they did. And so they went active. Then a month later, they lowered it 10 grand, then 9 days later, they lowered it 10 grand. And a couple weeks later, they lowered it 10 grand. Then they included more things. Then they changed the remarks, and you can see what changed in it. And then they raised the price 10 grand. I don't know why. Like, what changed in the world for Jennifer and Ashley here? I think, you know what? We didn't get any well, look, they changed it, and then the same day they changed it back.
Oh, maybe it was.
Maybe it was a mistake. The seller's like, what did you just do? So anyway, you can do that just to kind of see what's going on. The other thing that I suggest that everyone does is I have this, so I go do a search and go full. And then I just clear out the criteria. So in this, you can just do things like, I want active listings. Oh my goodness.
Things lagging.
Oh, it's way down there. It's the weird zoom. So we can see like today there's 11,000 active new listings. Or listings total. So then I could create this listing alert and call it all listings. Shouldn't have closed my
Give you
my
a-
email.
Oh,
So you won't get 11,000 emails, but let's see. I get one. So I do it for all of Keller Williams listings. So every day I get an email that looks like this that says you have 7 new listings. So it's everything that is new to the market or that has changed anything, right? I did sold, so like the status changed, the price changed, remarks, things like that. I get a notification of all of those. So every day I just click to view the listings and then I can see all of this. So I select all of them and then we can do like a agent full report. So then I can see, okay, this one's been on the market for 1 day, active, and I can even scroll down and see who listed it. Jane Gray in our office listed it. And if I want to, I can click through the pictures and see what it's like. So not only am I familiarizing myself with the market, like this one specifically is for me to know who's doing business in the market, in our market center, you know? Here's another one, brand new to the market. That's a nice looking house, 635. We can scroll down and see, oh, Heather Groom. There we go, 18 days on market. Price went down $10,000. Looks like a twin home. And we can go see who listed it, Angie Fisher. So then the way that I use this is to be like, okay, who like on the new agent team is taking a listing or changed their listing or anything like this. You could use this and be like, oh, hey, I see Heather Groom has this listing and there's no open house because it would say open house here. So you could reach out and say, hey, Heather, do you want me to do an open house? So like Angie, remarks open house. Why does it say open house? I thought it was at the very top. Maybe she didn't put it in right. But so you can get familiar with the market. So for example, let me just close out of this. Cancel. This one where we just did like active. So that would do everything that's active on the market that changes. You could even go to like a number of days back and do 1.
That shows you all the.
237 came on the market within 1 day. So like every day you could get all of the new ones. You wouldn't see price reductions and things like that. So kind of an interesting thought. So I would say save some sort of search, especially where you want to focus. Like Utah, Salt Lake County are always great because I imagine most of the homes you sell will be in there. You might go down south a little bit. Maybe you're gonna be out in, yeah. Maybe you're gonna be out in Tooele, that's probably further away. Maybe you're gonna go up to like Heber. And stuff like that, Summit, Wasatch County. So you can always look into those and just kind of keep a pulse on the market. So you see what's coming out. I would highly, highly suggest this. You do this in your neighborhood. All the time, my neighbors will be like, hey, what did that house sell for? And boom, I know the number. Like, how do you know that? I'm like, because I'm a real estate agent and I watch the market. And they're like, that's cool. And if I ever don't know, I'll pull it up, I'll look it up right then, and I'll tell them things that I find on this, right, by clicking on the history. As you really want to get into knowing like, okay, how is like the market? Like I'm getting ready to list a specific house in a specific area. How are things going? So we have this stats section. So there's all of these fun little things. The daily snapshot is just like what happened today. So today, last year on this day, we had this many active. We have more active now. So what's happening? More backups, more under contracts, less withdrawn, less active no-show, and less sold. Might just be the date, right? Maybe Friday's worse than whatever last year was, Thursday or whatever, for sold properties. And so you can just kind of see side by side. You can change this by county, area, and types and things like that. Sales per month, quarterly, all these different things that you can look into. Absorption report. Let's just quick view.
You probably don't have this.
I don't have.
Not yet. You'll get this, yeah, once you get going. So,
It is,
yep,
yeah, it's like $50 a month.
yeah, sucks.
It is what it is, man.
What it is. But it does add a lot of value when you are real estating.
I think you need it.
Yeah.
You should do
You
this
can't.
without it.
You can't. So if you're like, okay, let's go into this absorption report, and then you're like, wait, what the freak even is that? Under the help, there's always a, what is this report? So the absorption rate is the ratio of the number of sold properties to a given length of time. Inventory is an indication of supply of properties based on the absorption rate. So they're calculated as follows. So absorption rate is number of sold over number of months. So if we look at 2 months, and the number of sold, so it'd be the number of sold over 2 months, the absorption rate should be half of this. So you can see absorption rate and inventory. So it's like how many properties could absorb. This is a little more interesting if you're working with a builder. It's like, how many properties should I list? And it's like, well, how many do you want to sell? And what's the competition looking like? So the higher months means more inventory you can kind of do there. So if you ever like, what are one of these? You can do that. Rapid stats is actually way cooler than all of this. This makes it pretty. You can print things out to use in listing presentations. So like right off the dashboard here, you can see like the active listing count, the listings sold in the last 30 days and under contract today. List to sold price, you can kind of see like this is where people are listing the median. This is the average. So for a while, we're basically 100%. And now we drop down for the median. The average, we're kind of rolling. So this is where Dean probably comes in and gets some of his information right here. Supply versus demand. So the months of supply, as the supply of houses go up, they look at the absorption rate to tell you where it should kind of go. High absorption rate, low inventory, probably means we're gonna stay like that. As the absorption rate goes down, the inventory goes up. So you can look at all of these. You can change things around. You can even get in here and build reports. Oh, my charts, that's where I built some. So if I wanted to like view the average days on market, I can see that over time. So, can I zoom in on that? Okay. Tell me what you guys can glean from this chart. Average days on market.
Things sell quicker in the summer.
Yeah, when's our low point? Both times. We're in June. So,
Yeah, but 70 days on market is not what your clients want.
Yep, if someone's like, hey, I want to sell my house right now. Yep. So if you meet someone that's like, I would love to move out by like March or April. Well, if we like look at like this, like, okay, well, the days on market for houses that closed in April was 56. So you're typically like a 30-day to close, like from under contract to close, and 56 days is what it was in 2023. 2024, 52. So we're like 80-ish days. So if you want to move in April, you probably need to list it 3 months before that. You should be going on the market in January. Might as well just go on the market now.
Yeah, I mean, it really does take a while.
So
And
when
then
someone's like, I want to
December-
move in the spring, you could ask them why. Like, and is that when you're moving out? And then when they're like, yeah, we'd love to move out like April or May. It's like, well, great. We're kind of looking at like 50-ish days on market. It's going to take you about 30 days to close that. So we're about 3 months from when we list the house to when you move out. Plus, we could even negotiate like a rent back or at least kind of an idea, or even just have that possession extended a couple of weeks to make that happen. So if you listed now, 3 months from now, we're in February, you could maybe rent it from them for a month or two. Like, I just planned why to list now rather than before. So interesting. All right, how about average sold price? So this goes back till 2022. What are you guys seeing here?
Steady rise over the years.
Lower prices.
Yeah. Yeah, so this, we dropped a whole bunch. Then we went up. Then we had this little blip if we went backwards again and then back up. And then we kind of rode the summer, like kind of stayed all over. And then again, December, January, we dropped a little bit. We just rode it up. We didn't even have any of this change. We were just up or pretty flat. Like we went down a little bit. We popped up November. Where's December going to be?
Slightly lower.
Slightly lower.
I wouldn't say as much as the drop as the previous 2 years.
Nope. So you can start to glean some information. You can click on some of these like market summary type things, and try to get some information here. So like we could even just say Utah County and refresh the report. So if you wanted to like, so there's 4 types of people, right? Personality types with the DISC profile, if you've ever heard of this. The Ds are the drivers. They just want like, get it done, move things fast. There's the I type personalities. These are the friends. The influencers is what it stands for. So these are like the life of the party and things like that. A lot of agents are often that I type personality, but not everyone is successful. Dan Kennedy, that was here on Wednesday, he is not an I. He has like a 0 I personality, and he crushes real estate. The S personality, this is the steady. They want like consistency and things like that. They don't like the change. And then you have the C personality, which is correctness. They love stats and charts and things like that. So if you are going into like a listing presentation, for example, and you know that person is a C type personality, right? They're an accountant, an engineer, those kind of people, they will love if you print off and bring something like this. They will just gobble this up and want to talk about it the whole freaking time. Now, if you bring this and you have a D personality, they're going to glance at it and throw it off to the side. They don't want to talk about it. They're done. If you bring this and give it to an I personality, they're going to look at it, maybe like, oh, those colors are pretty. Tell me a story about this. Like they want stories, not facts and figures. The S-type personality is more similar to the C, looking for stats and things like that. And so then you can give them all of this information. A lot of times C-type personalities make decisions slower because they want all of the information. This may backfire you in that scenario, right? If this is like, oh, things are going down or up, or my house is probably in this 500 to 700 range. And so the months of inventory are 3.2 and we're 995, like, ooh, that doesn't sound as good as I wanted it to be. Like, look at this, 2.5 months of inventory. We're probably like, they might overanalyze. So that's where you just need to take control. Now, everyone is usually 2 to 3 of these personalities. 2 is most common. So if you're a C personality, the most common is you're also going to have S personalities. They want stable, so you can use that to sell to them. Like you're that constant, that steady in their life. If they're an I personality, they're usually either a D or an S personality as well, right? The S is either a C or an I. The D is either an, really they could be anything. There's less Ds in the world than anyone else. They tend to be successful, so they think they're the coolest, but often they're jerks. So I don't know. They just go and do. And there's not a bad personality, by the way. So jump into this rapid stats. There's a bunch of different things that you can do. You can even schedule reports to go out to you if you want to just like on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis, have certain reports come to your inbox to keep you up to date. I think that's a great idea to do. So that covers the market. Gary Keller, by the way, he also does a market report every February and August in Mega Camp and Family Reunion. And usually those are live streamed, so you can always watch the market report from Gary. It is always nationwide, and it is eye-opening on how he analyzes things and talks about things on a macro level. Then we need to focus down to the Utah level. Then you need to focus down to your local area. So besides all of this, how do you guys get news and information? Or how would you like to do that?
Besides the MLS.
Besides the MLS. Just the Rain Man that you're just like.
That personal assistant, you're gonna have to teach them how to do it before they know how to do it.
Yep. So how do you stay informed on things that you care about? Like besides real estate?
I mean, I would say social media, I would say whatever news things you listen to, whatever podcasts you
Yep.
listen to, whatever you watch on YouTube, whatever, you know.
We have so much information that you almost need to pick and choose what you are going to look at, listen to, and hear, and how are you going to use that for your benefit in this. And so I've subscribed to a couple of newsletters that I like to get. Morning Brew is my favorite. If you're not subscribed to Morning Brew, they always make it fun and interesting, and it is very non-biased type news. And so I read that every single morning just to kind of know what's going on. And sometimes it's very like, here's the economy, here's the politics, or here's the stocks, here's the things. And other times it's like, hey, the sports team won. Here's a link to like the coolest highlights of that. And so like in 10 minutes, I can get a good pulse on kind of what is going on with something like that. I have a handful of different podcasts that I listen to, just to kind of stay up to date. I have been trying to find more than just like good information. I've been looking for people that I want to emulate. Like I like how they think through things and they analyze what they're doing, because there's so many that have like the news or the information, might as well move past that and get some sort of insight on where you want to grow as well. And so Scott Galloway, you guys know Scott Galloway? He's good. I like to listen to a lot of his things. Even though my political views are like the exact opposite of him in like 90% of things, but he is one of the most interesting people. And so he's really good to listen to. I also like All In, that podcast. It's for venture capitalists that just talk about what's going on in business and news and things like that. So yeah, Scott Galloway, he's got a couple of different podcasts, and then All In is really good. But then maybe like, I don't know, Joe Rogan, it's less news, but more interesting. Like maybe that's going to help you kind of know things. Or if you like, they have like the Wall Street Journal has a like 6-minute podcast or something that you can get up-to-date information every single day. Like you can find some of those things so you can take small amounts of time to stay updated on what's going on. And then I would use all the other technology at your fingertips to like analyze that. Like if you have no idea what like absorption rate is, throw that into ChatGPT and say, explain this to me like I'm 5. And then say, how could I use this specific chart, have it like grab one of these charts and say, how would you explain this to a seller on why it would be good to sell? And then it will walk you through it. You're going to start to learn these kind of things with some activities like that. And then TV. Hey, yeah.
This is super interesting.
Yeah, I'm about done anyway, so I don't know if you're going to miss anything else.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you Monday.
Please see y'all Monday.
Yeah. What else? How else do you guys learn and stay up to date with this stuff?
I do the new listing search quite often. That's one of my things that I like to look through just to see what's coming up on the market,
Yep.
what are prices doing, what are the things that are becoming active in Utah County mainly, and then Salt Lake County,
And you can break it up if you want to. So you could say like, okay, I have one search for Utah County and one search for Salt Lake County, and get separate emails and look at them differently. Johnny Christensen, who owns the Market Center, used to be the Shawnee, now is the regional director. When he got started, he had one search for active listings and he had one search for under contract listings. And so how he broke it up was, I want to see everything that's coming on the market so I'm familiar with it. But then I want to see everything that gets offers, like what's actually moving on this market. Because if you accept an offer and go under contract, it probably means you did something right with the listing, or it's like priced well, something right. Like he never had like the exact dollar figure from that, but it's like, it's in the realm where they negotiated an offer, whether it's 100% or more of the listing price or 96, like the average seems to be right now. So play around with all that. Let's see, did we miss anything? That's kind of the recap. So, you're going to start to know your market, right? There's a whole bunch of information. Be a sponge on this. And as you see things and hear things, try to explain them and then try to make a prediction on why something is going to happen. Right? Like even when we were looking at that chart going up and down, we're like, it always goes down in January. Well, December, January are coming. Let's make that prediction. If you want to get really good at predicting, you would keep a little prediction journal and write down, today is November, and I think that the number of homes sold will go down in December and January because that is what happens all the time. And I think we're in the same market that we were the last couple years. So I have no reason to think it's going to go up. And then in January, you read your little prediction journal and you're like, I was right. Check. I can check that off. Like I am getting good at predicting that. You might have a weird thing. I saw someone, another source that you should look at is Keeping Current Matters, KCM. They do a daily newsletter email that goes out. They try to like upsell you to have you send it to your sphere. But they'll send you the content and it's great all the time to great talking points, things like that. But a few years ago, he said, I am predicting the best winter of sales ever.
This year.
This was like 5 years ago or something. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like he was in a room of like 2,000 people and he's like, this is going to be the best winter maybe of your careers. Like you're making that prediction and you're doing it in front of a lot of people. Like he is probably very good. I mean, his newsletter and marketing that he does is all market driven. And so he knows his numbers. Like that's literally, he had a keynote speech on like the numbers. Like he probably knows what he's talking about. And it was great winter, not better than I thought it would ever be kind of a thing. But I'm like, goes in the prediction journal. Why do you think it's going to be better this winter than ever before? List out the factors and then see how you were right or wrong. And then you're going to adjust as you go. So write and learn. And then the biggest thing is learning to how to communicate this with your clients, right? If they're facts and figure people, it's real easy. You can send them charts and graphs. If they are relationship type people, the IS type personality, those people will want stories about it. So you could say, oh, you know how like the Johnsons sold their house in 2 days? That's what I'm seeing in all over the place is if you price it right, you get offers in days. If you don't, it's taking weeks or months to sell. That is very different than like, they got an offer for 102% of their price in 3 days because they did this marketing campaign. Like same information, different ways. So learn to communicate that. Questions, thoughts, anything?
The current market,